it's a really small thing to miss, but costs a lot at the end to fix.
So what kind of mistakes do you typically see happen in terms of construction, even in design? Let's say in pre-construction and the design. What kind of mistake do you see clients making, or even like making the process of doing the design?
There's a lot. It's actually really interesting because there's a lot of, and you know this, there's a lot of really small details that end up being missed on plans or not focused on enough. There's really, like, for example, I had an issue before where the client had purchased a stove, like electro equipment, and that wasn't like they had chosen that themselves, and or it wasn't existing. I actually forget what it was exactly, but the design had gone through with a depth of cabinet in mind that is basic to standard.
I understand.
And that kind of stove had two ways.
So you had like 24 inches deep for your thing?
Exactly.
Okay.
That kind of stove had two ways of implementation, either a flush finish or like the normal basic one where it's a bit extruding. After the design has been done, renovation has been complete, millwork finished everything, the client then goes, oh no, I actually want it to be flush.
Yeah, but then you have to add 2 inches to your...
Exactly.
To your
with that design, it can either be just removing everything, pushing it in front a little bit, but in that specific design there was like an L-shaped
oh no.
Yeah. And I wasn't working, like I wasn't lead designer on that project at all. I was just supporting at the time, and it was just a really expensive mistake to fix.
Oh, so they did fix it?
Yes. The millwork company, actually one of the best millwork companies I know, they ended up fixing it. But like something like this, so
that's the advantage of working with a good team and a cohesive team.
Exactly. And you know, the designer should have asked more questions, should have, you know, been more diligent in understanding, okay, what exactly are you purchasing for your stove? How do you want it to be fit? Are you aware that there's 2 options? It's a really small thing to miss, but costs a lot at the end to fix.
So once you see it, if you see it in the planning stages, it's cheap to fix in the planning stages.
Exactly.
But if you do it during construction, then you're screwed.
Of course.
Because there's so many things that have happened beforehand that you've already done the work for them.
Exactly.
That would mean that you have to cancel, like you've made the work. That means then you have to undo the work you've already made and then redo work because of overseeing something in the planning stages.
Exactly. And that means, you know, more material that you need to purchase, more labor, because now you're, instead of it being a job for like 4 days of on-site, now it's, you know, 8 days on-site. You've doubled that cost. There's a lot of things that go into small details.
Even let's say it's 4 days, you've done it already. So then you have 2 days to undo it and then another 4 days to redo it.
Exactly.
And then you have the delay of lead times because you have to reorder stuff. So maybe your 4 days turn into like 20 days. Yeah,
exactly. There's another thing, for example, and this is just to show you how small and minor those details could be. For example, I've heard about this actually from a designer where they had chosen the perfect shade of green tile. And it fit really well with their design. Everything was great. But in their specifications for the contractors, they didn't specify exactly what tile they wanted. So then the contractor went and chose something that was incredibly similar, but just not quite that shade.
Yeah, and then you throw everything off just because of the
color. And you don't see that until everything's done. Everything is in place. Everything's clean. The furniture is here. And you're like, actually, that doesn't work.
Oh, no.
So things like that.
So what happened then?
I heard that story, but I don't know how that was resolved. I hope that they changed the tile because, but yeah, things like that are incredibly small that your designer really needs to understand where to focus on, where to look at in plans and in projects.
So if I understand correctly, your role as a designer is to make the process pain-free for a client, make sure their money goes where it needs to go and not wasted through mistakes, and make sure that we're not like, oh no, we could have done this, but we didn't because we didn't plan.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, well, let me think, because...
I have something.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's also one of actually the biggest kind of conversations that you have with your designer is budget. And I'm pretty sure that you also have the same thing. Most clients, I find, have an idea of what they want and a budget that just doesn't relate.
Yeah.
And, a good designer, their responsibility is to
spot that early on.
Exactly. Understand, okay, where are we going down? Where are we going up? How are we going to balance this out? And then things that, for example, let's say you want like a full wall of marble. Okay, maybe your designer can understand, okay, we can take away from this, or we can specify a different kind of material that helps bring that to your budget, but with the exact same look that you were expecting.
Okay.
So that's also really good.
So value engineering.
Exactly.
Like, okay, I understand. So yeah, that brings the questions to me is, how do you make sure, or how do you approach it when, okay, let me say it that way. I've had clients do plans that they can't afford, but they've already spent the money with the engineers or architects or interior designers. How do you make sure that doesn't happen with your clients?
So actually with that, there's, I find that there's a lot of times where clients end up bringing their budget back up. It happens a lot with me. I don't know if you've seen that too.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's always more expensive than you think, especially when you've not done construction before.
Exactly. And you always think that, okay, I'm going to cut costs here and there. But then you realize like you're already paying so much for something. You don't want to. Exactly. You don't want it to be not exactly what you wanted. Mm-hmm. So it's actually a really hard thing to do. But it's important that the designer asks enough questions and understands their client so much that they can spot, okay, this is something that's obviously important to them. This is going to cost them a bit more. Here's an honest conversation. Look, this doesn't align with your budget. Is it really that important to you? Do you want us to maybe switch it up for something else or something similar? And then you have to address that early on. Because when I have a client that has a fairly small budget and is expecting full marble, full, the best tiles from Morocco and all of that, there has to be kind of from the beginning early on. I can't tell them, yes, you'll have that. I have to understand, okay, this is going to cost you a bit more. We have a different replacement that I've worked with that is really nice, similar to that tile, but it's not quite as expensive. Or there's like other options. We can do ceramic or like other things that we can do instead of your dream material. That should be addressed early on. If that is addressed early on, the client understands. And then in their whole process, they understand that, okay, things actually have a budget. And they have a price that I'm not really that familiar with, but I have someone that I trust that knows.
I can understand. Then what kind of questions do you see coming often to you from your clients?
A lot. How much is that going to cost is a big question. I always find that.
And how do you give them an answer they can trust?
I try to establish from the beginning that, I'm working for you. I'm working with you. My goal is to get what you want at the best price possible. So I try to build that trust with them and tell them, look, like, this is going to be quite expensive. I can go and try to find alternatives. I can provide you with prices that, like a variety of prices that you can choose from. And then as long as I give that client and that person all of the options that they have, and then they can better choose something that fits them, to me, I find is the best really way. It's how I would want my designer to be treating me. I want to have all the options. I want to understand what my options are, and then be able to make an informed decision of what's best for me, instead of later on being like, oh, that was actually expensive. I thought you knew. You know what I mean? Sometimes that ends up happening. So
setting proper expectations for your clients.
Exactly. It's incredibly important. And when I work with my clients, I make sure that they understand that I am trying to find all the solutions and all the materials or all the ways possible to get you that for a little bit less, so that they have all the information.
I can understand.